Hello and welcome back to the What the Falk podcast as we close in on the 24-25 season with Sunderland AFC. Pre-season's over, and while the transfer business is surely, please God, don't be done yet, we do have a league game to look forward to, a regular preview podcast, regular Sunderland chat for sort of 9 months, which at the moment sounds really exciting, and I think we all want the season of success. That's what we're all hoping for. Of course, we'll be previewing it either way, and we're going to be previewing the upcoming season today. And we've got almost a full house, minus one who's a little bit sick. We've got regular voices and a brand new one. But first up, I'll keep the surprises. Dave Lawrence. Dave, you've joined us for a fourth season, mate. What you're on? How are you feeling?
Yeah, all good, mate. Looking forward to it. Yeah, it's the anticipation now, isn't it? Wanting to get underway, and then hopefully we're cheering at full time. Early kickoff, I believe, in at 12:30. So we'll see if we've got more to celebrate on the Saturday, or if we've got longer to commiserate, I guess.
Actually, I'm trying to listen to what you're saying, but it's not really working because obviously we're an audio podcast for a reason. But our new guest, who will remain as a secret for the moment, is not wearing glasses, isn't bald, and has a T-shirt on, whereas everyone else does not. Ross Black, without his shirt on. You're a bit warm, mate, aren't you?
It's boiling. Honestly, I've never... It's ridiculous. There's no air. I can hardly breathe. I've got all the windows open, But yeah, let's hope it's this warm for the next few games. That'll be a nice day out, won't it?
Got nothing to do with your chub or anything like that, no?
Oh, you know what I mean? I thought, I wasn't going to put the image for people, for audio podcast and a platform for a reason to not put the images in our listeners' heads. So I thought, I'd try and swerve away from that conversation. But I know you didn't really ask as much about football, but I'll go on to it. I'm pleasantly excited after the Marseille game.
Onto a man who fits comfortably into a large T-shirt, especially the Hummel ones. Unlike Ross, it's Lee Armstrong. Lee, how are you doing? Are you all right?
I'm all right, mate. I'm all right. Hi. I wouldn't say comfortably into a large T-shirt. I think you're pushing it a little bit there. Sometimes it gets a little bit too uncomfortable. But I'm not too bad. Looking forward to my first full season on the podcast, which is a good thing. I've made me loan permanent, so to speak.
Aye, so it is. Aye, you're right. It's your first full season. That's a good point, that. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Like Ross, after watching Marseille, I'm quite looking forward to Cardiff on Saturday.
Yeah, for the now. I'll come back to you after about 3 o'clock on Saturday and let you know if I'm still excited. We do have a brand new voice coming to the podcast. We wanted to add someone extra. Not that we're forcing Brad out. He is sick, but we've got an excellent voice in the shape of Peter, who's joining us all the way from Paris tonight, which is far better than where I am, which is Glasgow and Gateshead and other places. But first and foremost, how are you, mate? And is this going to be a Stan Varga debut or a Jan Kirchhoff?
Oh, you've put me on the spot there. I mean, I would love to think it was a Stan Varga debut, but it could continue in some kind of solid performance. Because didn't Varga play that one game and then he ruptured something after his debut? He ruptured something in his calf and ended up screaming in agony in the middle of the night in the hotel in Sunderland because he was bleeding internally. So yeah, so there you go. That's my first contribution, talking about bleeding internally. No, I'm in Paris at the Olympics, so I'm having a great old time. I'm not always going to be here with you from Paris, but no, it's nice to be here. I feel like I am. Well, we heard earlier on that a loan had been made permanent. I feel like my name should just be a trialist right now, and we see what happens.
I mean, some trialists have done well. We'll come on to Blondie, who we've signed. He's had a good trial, and he's been signed as third choice. But before we go into the season, we're not just going to go, what's your name and where you're from? I think you can tell from the accent you're from the Northeast, but you're in Paris. So just in a 2-minute segment, give us your rundown on your Sunderland supporting life. Who are you and why Sunderland?
I mean, I'm from Hetton, so that's why Sunderland. But I left Hetton when I was 18. I ended up in the United States for university. Then I was in Falmouth down in Cornwall for a little bit, working for the BBC. And then I ended up in Russia for a long time, working out there as a journalist. And I've been in Berlin in Germany for the last 13 years. And, obviously with not being in exile from the region, I don't get to the matches every week. I do manage to watch everything these days because of this live streaming that goes on through the club. It's my little contribution to the club that I get to make, although I don't get to buy a season ticket. I still get to buy the streaming pass. But yeah, when we try and get back whenever we can. I introduced my wife, who's from Shanghai, to her first game last season. I took her with my dad and my granddad to see Coventry at home. So that was her first game. That was her first ever game of football. Didn't really get to didn't really get into it that much. Is it always like this? I was like, well, I mean, hopefully not. Because that was about as dire a game of football as I've seen up close. But no, I've been lucky enough to be able to follow the lads from all just about everywhere I've been. I think one of the weirdest ones was following, because I certainly wasn't able to watch it, the semi-final of the League Cup back in 2014. I was in Kiev during well, it was still a revolution at the time, and I was watching that on the barricades in Kiev with a Colombian cameraman, as we were just updating, because we could just get the BBC text on the website and just hitting refresh and update and hoping the 2.5G that we had would get us something. So there's been some strange ones. I've been able to follow them from Ukraine, as I was saying, from Libya. I managed that during the revolution there, from Egypt during their revolution. Kyrgyzstan was a strange one, trying to convince a cameraman that, like, is there anywhere that'll show the match? No, that's the answer. In the middle of nowhere in Kyrgyzstan, not many places to watch the football. But I'm happy to be here, and yeah, I'll be coming to you from Berlin. That's, of course, if you'll have us after me trial, from Berlin most of the time, but otherwise places like Paris, where I've been for the Olympics.
It's a solid start, but Ross is already questioning his life choices. He's thinking of all the games he's watched in his underpants, as opposed to decent venues across the world. But Ross, I'll come straight back to you. You mentioned the Marseille game before, right? 2-2 draw. I think we've ended the summer with 1-3, drew 2, lost 2. A mixed bag, but it's pre-season. But the final performance against Marseille was good. You said it left you feeling a bit more excited for the season. What was it that... why have I said it this way? What was it that got you excited?
It was
the Colombian cameraman, wasn't it? That was what it was.
For the first time, it was seeing for a full 90 how I think Reggie Slibbery wants us to play. You could see the high press, the intensity, how we are going to take risks playing out from the back. But also, once we play out from the back, how much better and how much more free Patrick Roberts looks. Like, he looked like Paddy was back to himself. Alan Brown was brilliant. He looks a good signing. Not the signing I thought he would be. Personally, I thought he'd be signed to be the sitter in front of the defence. However, it seems like Neil's going to take that role, and even seems to be flirting with the number 4, which was interesting. He's wore that every game he's played. So I think they definitely see Neil maybe as a deep line midfielder in that way. But yeah, it was, don't get me wrong, defensively we did have moments where you're like, oh God, but the quality of opposition was so much better than we'd faced in the past. You kind of understand that, like Marseille, especially under De Zerbi, are going to be real challengers in the top 6, I think, in the French top league. So you can kind of not expect to have that type of quality against you week in, week out in the Championship. But yeah, Alessi and Serkin, when Alessi went off against Blackpool, I thought, oh, is that Alessi doing Alessi things, unfortunately, because he's like that. You have 3 games and he's out, but he played, he looked strong, he looked good. And Anthony Patterson was fantastic. Some good, like, it was just one of them games where it's what I've been waiting for pre-season. I know it took to the last game to get it, but it felt like a performance, and you could see what we've been working on in and out of possession, where there is differences. It's not just going to be the same. The one caveat is, obviously, everyone knows there was nobody in the middle for half the crosses to put it in the back of the net. But we have been saying that for 2 years now, so I didn't really want to get onto it too much, because I just had a suspicion that it will be part of your the preview. But yeah, it was just really good, and if we can implement them types of pastures of play with the players we've got, it'll be good.
Talking of strikers, though, they did that thing where it was like players that played for Marseille and Sunderland. I thought there can't be that many. I was like, ooh, Jibril Cissé, ooh, Bolo's ending, ooh, Stephen Fletcher, forgot about that completely, but it did happen. Lee, I should be really going back to Dave at this point because he was the first I spoke to, but you also were excited by the Marseille game, so I'll throw this question to you as well. Similar feelings to Ross, or was there anything that you picked up on that, made you a bit more excited?
Yeah, see, it was the high press for me and how early we won the ball back in their half. And that's against the Roberto De Zerbi side of his teams like to play out, and he gets him playing well, playing out from the back. That's similar to Ross, like the look of Alan Brown. I think he's going to be a very, very astute sign for us.
I just like the fact he's called Alan Brown because we haven't signed a player that's called like Keith, and we've signed Ian. No matter what Brad says, that it's Jan, apparently, it's Ian and Alan Brown. It feels very, as David Moyes would say, it feels British. It's not like neither of them are, but nonetheless.
But as I say, it's nice to see Patrick Roberts been back to his sharp best. And I just missing that vocal point down the middle, aren't we?
Yes. I'm sure we'll come on to that. Dave. So, look, let's look at the signings. I don't think the signings are done yet. I really don't. It doesn't necessarily mean we'll get what we're going to get, but we've brought in Simon Moore, Alan Brown, Ian Poveda. If you're looking at youth team, really good signing in terms of Elias Lenz. I think he's called the RB Leipzig under-19 captain. I don't think he's going to be first team. And then we brought in, the pronunciation is probably not going to be correct, but Blondie Noikoi, or Noiku, potentially. So we brought in 2 goalkeepers. We brought in Alan Brown, who's going to play in the middle. Obviously, Poveda will come in, I think, at a later time. And the other ones are sort of a third-choice goalkeeper and a young lad, essentially. I'm not going to ask if you think it's enough, because it's not. There's no point in me asking that. But how much more do you think we need, and where do we need it, Dave, without sounding blatantly obvious where we obviously need it? There is other positions, I think, maybe as well we could bring in.
I had a chat with someone on Twitter who's obviously got the same thought process as me. I think people are going to hate me for it because I'm just going to sound pessimistic, and I'm not. But I think we're 5 to 7
I'm
short.
getting messages on Instagram now of people saying,
"Is
I like
Dave
the
all right?"
podcast, but Dave needs to cheer up a bit. And I'm like, but he's got a valid point. We don't have a striker. But like, it did dawn on me that if I'm getting Instagram messages, maybe I should just check that the loss of Ross Stewart hasn't hit you too hard on its anniversary.
Oh, I mean, to be fair, I can't. We all know how much of a loving I've got with Roscoe, but he's. I feel really sorry for the kid because I think he's going to struggle to recover from everything he's had go wrong for him. But I hope he does. But that's a different story. We've all moved on from that. I think in terms of squad depth, I haven't moved on. I was trying to bring out the positive in you there. I think we're 5 to 7 short in terms of squad depth, and out of that, especially with the style that Labrise is going to try and bring, I think the one thing that Ross and Lee have said in the high press, and it's brilliant, what we've got to remember is the reason that we got so many good deals on people like Serkin, on Aless, and people like that is the simple fact they're made of Pringles. So this high press and it is going to be more susceptible to injuries, and I think that's where the squad will come in to play massively. And the last podcast that we did, we kind of said, didn't we, when you're talking about Equa, when you're talking about such and such, and whoever else were to Hemia, Mayenda, before you knew it, there was 10 players there which we all thought could be easily moved on, loaned out, not going to make a difference to the first 11. And I think on paper, our first 11, once everyone's fit and firing and ready to go, I think it's up there challenging the top 6 quite easily. 2, 3, 4 injuries, which I think is perfectly reasonable to think we're going to get, plus a suspension or 2 in there. Let's be honest, Luke's going to go through 3 different suspensions through the whole season because that's what he does. Bless him. Before you know it, 5 players are out of that. Have we got 5 players to come in? And then we're still talking without a centre forward. So yeah, it's 5 to 7 players for me. I don't think that's going to come off. And so the person who I was talking to on Twitter earlier kind of said, I hope a couple of the fringe who we don't really think that highly of prove us wrong. And yeah, there is always that hope. Maybe the new manager will bring that out of them. And I really hope it is. I don't want to be right. I don't want them to be bit part players and poor and play in the first round of the Carabao Cup and just have an absolutely torrid time. I hope they do prove us wrong, and I hope they're fantastic. But with me rational head on, that's where I think we're at. 5 to 7 players short. 2 are there, and if we're being realistic, before the window slams shut, 2 centre forwards, a centre midfielder, and a centre half. That'll be my wish list. I don't know how much I'm going to get me dreams coming true, but I really hope we do.
Spoken like a true journalist there. You can tell you've had 4 years on What the Fork by saying when the window slams shut. Peter, I'll kind of fire the same question to you. I do find myself largely agreeing with Dave as much as I want to be a bit more optimistic, and there will be people listening, but we do feel a bit short, don't we?
I didn't expect to agree with Dave as much as I do when he started speaking. I thought when he said 5 to 7, I was like, come on, man, it's not that bad, is it? But you've made a very compelling case for that there. A lot of it down to the fact that they're just, you're not going to get a full season from Sir. I would love to think we got a full season from Sirkin. For the lad himself and for the player he is and for what he does for the club, he just makes a difference for me. Same with Elise. Like I really like Elise, but is he going to play every week or be able to play every week? Pushing to play every week at centre half or pushing Sirkin for left back? He's not, because we've seen that when they get little knocks, they turn into massive things and massive layoffs. I think Dave started front and worked his way back. I'm going to start at the back and work my way front. I'm a little more confident in midfield. I'm a little more confident in centre midfield, what they have there. I've been really impressed. How do I phrase this? Because he's a young lad. I've been really impressed by the physical development of Chris Rigg. Was what I was looking for there. Because, you know, when you see him score that goal against Southampton last year, that's a skinny little Ben that scores that goal. And the lad that played in the pre-season games is a much stronger, much more physical presence. And, I think getting him signed up has been one of the big positives we've got to take from the window. I'd love to think Dan Neil would follow before the end, and that would, put a lot of minds at ease. But I'm confident he can come in, particularly if we're going to start with Neil and Brown, which it does seem that we are absolutely happy with that. I'm going to be the one that says I like Pierre. Well, I love it. I just want him to be good. Because when he's good, he's great. And when I know, because I listen to the pod, I want him to be good. I want him to be good. And it breaks me heart when he does what he does, man. But what's going to happen there? He's been left out of those games. Is he injured? Is he carrying a knock? Is he going to leave? We'll see what happens with him. So let's move him to one side for now. I'm reasonably happy with the centre midfield. If you're not having Ekwai, you need somebody else in there, though. Wingers, we've got wingers that will be the best wingers in the leagues. We'll see what Jack Clark does stay. God hoping that he does. It does look pretty good at them. So far, so good. Every day we're not hearing that, that big offers come in and that he's talking to so-and-so. And I haven't heard from Ian Hart for a while, which is always a pleasant experience. He hasn't, because, as much as I quite liked him as a player, I don't agree with the way that carry on goes, but everybody's got to make a living somehow. And then you get to the centre forward positions, which we know. I'm saying centre forward positions. We need to before that window closes. I'm not going to say slam shut. Before the end of the transfer business, before transfer business is concluded, there has to be 2 strikers in. Obviously, the names that have been mentioned, the ones that are. That lad at Khan, Mendy. He's down tools and said apparently there were deals in place. So wonder what has gone on there. I've got no information further than what I read online about that.
There's a takeover of sorts, isn't it? With Kylian Mbappe?
With Kylian Mbappe's family have bought the club. But apparently there was some kind of deal in place before that, and he wants that honouring and he wants to be able to move. So he's not training with the team. he's off. He said goodbye to the fans, and I think his plans were that it would all be done and dusted by now. I've been impressed in some ways with the way that Libri has them set up to play. I like to watch the football. I like to watch football like that. I want to be entertained. I want to see them play some type of attacking football. I love a winger. Get 2 centre forwards. Get some adequate replacements for those players that are going to be injured. I'm reasonably happy. But how long have we got left now? What, 3 weeks? 3.5 weeks to get that done?
There's time.
It's a reasonable amount of time. It's plenty. I know, but with the season starting next week, I guess the team that's going to start is the team that started against Marseille. Mm-hmm. And I'd be happy with that until we got the replacements. Now, if we're still seeing this on August the 30th or August the 29th, I'm going to be less and less happy. And it's a ticking clock, really, on that.
Scary amount of balance in that argument, which is even scarier than Dave having balance in his argument. But here we are. Ross, I'll come back to you with the next one. Signings, players coming in, X, Y, and Z. Do you think anyone's... I think we kind of touched on it before. Embo's been linked. Matete has not really done anything. Ek was apparently injured, but has been linked. And then I think, do you think anyone's going to go, Ross, before...
Yeah, I think
the window slams shut.
Embleton, Matete, Bennett, Demir, they're all surplus, really.
Completely forgot about Juice and Bennett.
Triantis. I don't know what's going to happen with Triantis.
He needs to look good in midfield. He looked good.
He looked good in midfield for Hibs, didn't he?
Looking good in midfield is very different. I'm not saying he was Sergio Biscuits, but like...
He impressed.
He was better in midfield than he was in defence, where he gave away penalties in his first fortnight, like 4 times or something. Aye.
Yeah. But I'm starting to think, especially like say you mentioned the Clark news, Touchwood, but the teams that were linked with him have went and spent money on wingers by the looks of it, which makes me feel a bit more at ease.
I don't think people are going to pay the money for Clark. I mean, if they do, they do. But I just don't think they're going to pay the money, because if it's, 35% selling that Spurs have, you're going to be at least looking at 25. What is it?
Yeah.
35.
25 selling. Yeah, it was confirmed by somebody who was spot on with the Spurs news when he was linked with Lazio. But to me, this Ekwar deal keeps coming up. And the fact that he hasn't been risked, even though he's clearly he got a bit of a knock, but all of a sudden I've seen Libri say, oh yeah, be ready for Saturday next week if needed, makes me think something's a bit untoward there. And I think they're thinking now, he showed spells, let's be honest, but he hasn't done it consistently enough to get in our midfield. And we're at the stage now where if we need to sell one player as part of the model, like we did with Stewart, to keep the money going, to keep the bids going in, I think he may be the one that we get money for and sacrifice to then fund the forwards.
Yeah, like I wouldn't mind Ekwar staying, but if there's like 5 to 7 million there, I'm taking it to rebuild and get some forwards in. I'm sorry, Pierre, like you seem like a nice lad, but for me, he's had about 8 really good games in 35.
Yeah, plus as well, you think about it, Riggs come from nowhere in that position. So like, you've got someone there who's going to do the same job as him from the academy with a higher ceiling. So to get the money in there now, if we can then reinvest that in at least 4 players, like say a centre-half, centre-mid and 2 strikers, then it's a bit of a no-brainer, I think.
Then you get Jordan Henderson back end of the window, romantic stuff.
Fantasy land. You can tell you found a shirt with Henderson on the back.
I know, I could. Straight on Vinted. Lee, I'll sort of come to you with the next one. There's a few questions I want to get through, so sorry I'm not asking everyone the same questions. Well, I'm not. Tough. Just deal with it. We've got a match to look forward to. I've got preview shows to do, which are really frustrating because I've kind of enjoyed the time off. Said stupid me who decided to do a Euros podcast and got the final again. But we are excited. Look, we're going to start off in Wales. We've got a game to look forward to on Saturday that we can watch live, or you can travel down to, whichever way you want. But the fixtures have been out a while, and we didn't actually do a fixtures release show this year, did we? Because we were in the kind of midst of the Euros. But is there any game that you're looking forward to sort of across the season, but not just across the season, maybe in the first month or 2 of the season? Because I'm I'll be honest, I'm quite looking forward to the Burnley game. I think that'll be a good test to see where we're at really early on.
Yeah, as ever, I'm looking forward to the Sheffield Wednesday game, or you always look forward to your first home game of first home game of the season. Not prefer on the opening day, but this time around it's the second game of the season. Other than that, you're looking at Borough at home. It's a game that always stands out. And to be honest, it's been that long since the fixtures have come out. I can't really remember. Did we play Pompey in the first 2 months of the season or not?
I think our first 3 away. Right, hang on. Take out the EFL Cup. It's Cardiff away, Pompey away, Plymouth away is our first 3, and Borough obviously is in the first 2 months, which is 21st. So, I mean, your first 6 games are basically Cardiff away, Sheffield at home, Burnley at home, Pompey away, Plymouth away. You might as well just stay down. Borough at home. So, and then Watford away, so you've got a trip to London after that. I don't think you get a near away day until the 20th of October, which is Hull, which is arguably the closest. But, God, it feels like quite a tough start when you read that, doesn't it?
On paper, it's a tough start, but we all know football's not paid on paper.
Sometimes it is, Lee. Sometimes it is.
But the Portsmouth games always stick out because they're always feisty and there's always something going. See, I know I've been put on the telly as well. So, yeah, it's them type of fixtures. Like I say, Pompey, Leeds, Pompey, Middlesbrough, first game of the season. They're ones that stick out for me that I'm looking forward to.
We've got some really good home games early doors. I mean, talk about the long trips away from home, but the first home game's always exciting. I think Burnley's going to be a really good game to see where we're at. Then you've got a quote-unquote derby against Middlesbrough, and then Derby and Leeds at home back-to-back, which is quite exciting, really. I think it's tough fixture list, but it's a decent one all the same. Before I kind of go on to the next question, because we're probably doing quite good time here, Lee, we talked before about signings and who we need to bring in. I never thought I'd say I thought we needed 5 to 7, but like Dave and Pete both kind of convinced me now that maybe we do. But there has to be players that are going to go out with the model that it is. Embo's been linked with a move. I'm quite conflicted on Embo. I said before I'd be all right with Ekwa going, who's arguably more of a first-team player. Okay, you get more money, but Embo feels like he needs to go, but it's quite sad, isn't it? Embo going. It's quite sad how his Sunderland career could end because the goal at Wembley, his numbers have been great. He's just been, if it wasn't for one daft tackle, which was his own fault, there's an argument to say that Embo would be still in and around the first team, wouldn't it?
I would say so. I mean, I've always liked Embleton. As much as like some people don't, I've always liked Embleton. He always contributes. He can actually take a decent set of pieces, watch something that we don't have.
With both of his feet.
With both feet, I know. And this may sound controversial, and I don't think Peter would be how happy you. I'd rather keep Elliot Embleton than Pierre Ekwa. Personally.
We've turned into the Ekwa hate pod, haven't we? I like Pierre Ekwa.
I don't hate him.
No, me neither.
I said in the podcast last year, if you're going to buy Paul Pogba off Wish or Teemu, you get Pierre Ekwa. Because he waltzes around the pitch like he is Paul Pogba, and like you think he owns the place, and that he doesn't.
I just think the money you would get for Ekwa, compared to the output he's given so far, it feels like the best player to move on if we need some sort of like incoming money to sell on. But I also agree with Pete that we cannot let a player like Ekwa go and just be like, let's just go and do it without him, because like he's a pivotal member of the first team that played almost every game last year.
He is. I'd say I agree with that. He is one of the integral, was an integral part of the first team. I think he's been replaced by 2 players, obviously Riggs Emergence and Alan Brown. And he's not a very good number 6, so he's not going to not be Dan Nails understudy. But see, as you say, if you're getting 5 to 7 million for him, and by the way, if he does go to Udinese, he'll be on loan at Watford straight away because they've got nobody. They've got anybody.
Imagine seeing you here. Well, I didn't expect you here, Pierre. Oh, bloody hell.
So if he goes to Udinese, I think you'll guarantee he'll go to Watford on loan. But I say, it's the other person I could see possibly leaving would be Pembele as well. So I could see them possibly looking to get rid of Pembele and bring a new understudy right back.
I'm just not convinced that he is the Timothy Pembele that we signed. Like, every time I've seen him, he looks like Gareth Hall.
worse than Gareth Hall.
That's an argument for another day. I don't think anything is worse than Gareth Hall.
That's a podcast worth that.
Podcast on its own. But I'll stick to you with this one. I want to ask everyone this one. We're going to have to be short and sweet because I have not upgraded the Pro. I'm not going to upgrade the Pro because not enough people subscribe. I don't want you to subscribe, so therefore we can't make enough money to cover the Pro, so it's just tough. This is where we're at. This is the money we have. This is the model of the What the Falk podcast. Who's the player that's going to have a really mint class season for you, Lee, this season? Just one name and a couple of sentences as to why.
Dennis Serkin. I think he'll put his injuries behind him, and I think he'll establish himself as a top end, bottom end Premier League, top end Championship left back, and he'll show exactly how good he is. And you won't be surprised if next year he's one of them. Next season, next summer, that he's one of them players that are getting touted by going elsewhere.
I love Dennis Serkin. I think he's great, but I really just hope he's not a what's it next season. Ross, I'll come to you with this same question. Make it short and snappy.
I think this is going to be Joe Bellingham's coming out of his brother's shell season.
I agree.
Again, the Marseille game, physically, he looked stronger. He's pressing. He looked fitter. He was getting into positions. His final ball still to be desired, but he's getting in the positions. So as he develops his game, if he keeps getting these positions, I think you'll get us double figures again. People forget he's 18, 19-year-old. He's still a kid. And he's got so much to give. And I think he's been kind of scapegoated a bit for our attacking performances last season.
Yeah, I think
which weren't his fault. And I think this year, this is it. This is his full season where he's a senior member from the start. He's had a full pre-season with everyone. He's a senior member of the team now at his age, and it's his time to shine.
I agree. I was going to say that, but there's nothing more I can add. It's the exact same reasons. I'm a big fan of Job. I think he played 40-odd games last season and got like 7 goals or something. I think the kids... everyone has their own opinion and they're more than entitled to that. Me personally, I don't understand those who don't rate Job as highly as maybe I do, but that's fine. I think he'll have a great season next season with 40 games under his belt. He's going to be, in my opinion, he's going to take it to the next level. David Lawrence, anyone you're excited for? Anything you're excited for, just in general, like in life, or you just?
I think the one thing you're going to see this season is if we don't get it right, which I hope we do, but there is potentially, and we probably said it last year, but I think it's probably the last season that we get to see a lot of these quality young players because they will be snapped up. And I think my biggest one, and it'll be a bit of a pull on the heartstrings, unfortunately. But what
if we get promoted, Dave?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the dream, isn't it? And I hope that happens
It's the fucking reality.
Yeah, okay. You've seen the transfers of those 5 and 7 players coming in, so I'll believe you. You can share them with me after. I think Dan Neil's in for a massive season. I think he becomes more mature after every performance. I think he sees passes that nobody else sees, and I think he's just a great technical centre midfielder. And I genuinely want to enjoy him this season because I think if we don't hit the dizzying heights that we'd like to, I think he's in for a big move to Spurs, to a Villa. He's been branded with Liverpool and stuff. I think he's
our best player, isn't he? He's our best.
Yeah, he's brilliant. And now that he's got well over 100 appearances in the Football League under his belt, he just proves it week in, week out for me. So I really hope we do hit them dizzying heights of winning the league, or even second, or winning the playoffs. Because I'd love to see him play in the Premier League with us, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I'll go same question to you. Who's your player that you kind of tipping to stand out? Bearing in mind, we all said Hemir last year, so you can't really lose with this one.
Well, I said Hamir as well last year, and I thought we'd signed the new Drogba in disguise, and oh crumbs, what a mess that turned out to be. Bless him. I still have a little bit of hope he might. I just want him to get a loan somewhere and it to go really well, and to be just get some goals, get some confidence, and be great. Anyway, that wasn't the question I was asked. Everybody's picked the players I was going to go for, so what I'm going for is based off the back of that Marseille performance, and I want to see Paddy Roberts get over the breakup, the heartache he clearly had last year for not having Ahmad alongside him, and him and Trihume form this relationship down that right flank. He gets a centre forward that he can cross a ball for eventually, and he gets some goals, he gets some assists, he gets them early on, and we might see the Paddy Roberts that we know he can be. And the Paddy Roberts that isn't inside his own head and seems to have a little problem with going in the huff every now and again with what he does, and he thinks that everybody's on his back. Some of the things you hear about him, it's weird when you hear things come out from players saying he's in the huff in training, because they should be able to get that done. And anyway, I just want to see him get them early on, get the assists, get the goals, ideally with a striker to put them in the end. So Paddy Roberts for me.
Yeah, I love Patrick Roberts. I kind of agree with that one as well. I'll stick with you and I'll go along. One word answer. Where do we finish? Predictions?
6th.
Ross?
Up. 6th and up.
8th. Ross?
Get 2 strikers, 5th. Don't get 2 strikers, 10th.
Dave?
Unrivaled optimism, 4th.
Okay, now. Lee?
Fuck it, 2nd.
Oh, no, I did. Nah, you can tell you went on last year. We did it last year. And I was like, right, dickhead. I said 2nd and him. He would score 15 goals, or Dave did or something. Honest to God, I don't know what's the point.
I reckon we both agreed with that one last year.
I had to listen back to it today to kind of see what we went through. If there was ever a reason not to subscribe, which is a perfect ending to the show, listen to last year's preview show, which will be an example of everything we know about football, which is nothing. But we are here. Thanks for wanting us to come back. We sometimes doubt it, so thanks for caring. And welcome, Peter. I think we might make the loan move permanent unless Twitter tells us differently. So thanks, everyone, for joining, lads. And on to the season, I guess.
Please sign a striker.
Please.